Well, Carl, you are officially a published author, and a copy will go in the British Library.
Well, they have to take every rubbish. I think it'll go in the British Library lavatory. From what I understand, it'll be in there with like a collection of like novelty postcards and maybe a Viz compendium. But, you know.
Yeah, so they take everything. Just think of that.
But why do they do this? Why do they think they've got to keep everything? Because we're living in a world now where everything is sort of binnable, and you know we use stuff for what it is.
Well,
I think you could say that.
That's fine. That's fine.
There was a sort of poetry to it, but I think he stumbled across that. I don't think it was intentional.
Yeah, I mean, I still haven't got over him saying foodage.
Do you know what I mean, though? That the world's changed, so why is that rule still hanging around when...
Well, it's not a rule... I mean, it's not a rule that, you know, the country's going to, you know, live and die by. It's just that it is seen as a repository for knowledge, for information, and I don't believe any old Joe can wander in there and get one of these books. I think you have to either be a scholar... I think maybe it's open for a brief window for students, but, you know, you can just wander in there and see your own book, Carl. You know,
there are some books that they have to turn the page for you in gloves, so the amino acids.
I'd hate that.
With yours, it won't matter. They just go, it's over there, or they throw it to you.
No, it's just
or they slide it along the floor.
Well, they say, well, I can't give it to you, Carl, because it's propping up this desk.
Yeah, they kick it to you and say, put it in the bog when you're finished with it.
It's just that thing of being timed, though. I hate it when people go, oh, have you read this? And then I can't read it properly because I'm thinking they're thinking I'm taking ages here. Do you know what I mean? So I have to scan read it. And they go, oh, it's good, that. And they go, what do you think? And I go, oh, about what? So I'd hate the fact that someone stood there with gloves on, because that isn't normal, relaxing sort of reading, is it?
But it's not, you don't go in to read the Doomsday Book, let's say, in order to just have a relaxing read. You're going in there to study
there
it,
you know, historically. Say they're professors and scholars and scientists and historians. They don't wander in because it's raining and they go, what's a good read?
There's not a man wearing white gloves turning the pages of the latest Jackie Collins.
No, exactly. Do you have heat?
Watching your lips move as you read to see if you can turn the next page.
I suppose I shouldn't really feel guilty, because at the end of the day, right, I mean, people always rave about Shakespeare, saying, oh, yeah, his work was good. But
brilliant.
At the same time...
He'll probably put that on the book when he brings another one out. He'll put your review on it.
Yeah.
Oh, that was good. Karl Pilkington.
But at the same time, you know, like, some people will have a go. I'm ready for people having a go, like that Wendy did about me little films I made, you know.
Their opinion. So she slammed Carl.
No, well, you know, each to their own and that. And, you know, if everyone liked the same thing, I don't know what we'd do, right?
Sure.
You don't know anything.
So all I'm saying is, everybody raves about Shakespeare. When, if you properly looked at what he did, he invented a lot of swearing words, right? Effing and jeffing and that. Now, if...
That was one of his.
Well, it's Effing and Jeffing and Effing and Jeffing Part 2.
But all I'm saying is, for some reason, when things are brought out years ago, people say they're good even though they're not, is what I mean. When I was watching that documentary about the real Indiana Jones,
brilliant.
They dug out some rocks with drawings on. And they were like, oh, don't damage them, don't mark the paint, and it's like, it's rubbish. It was like a stick fella with a yak. Now, if that was found now, or if a kid showed me that, I'd go, hey, it's not that good. So what I mean is, because stuff's old stuff gets respect.
But you're not judging it on its aesthetic merits, you're judging it on its historical importance.
I don't think that's fair, though, because when that fella drew that, it wasn't old. He did it when he was knocking about.
No, yes, but you must see the difference between you doing a stick man on a wall with a bit of chalk near your local and a cave painting that they date to 10,000 years ago.
Yeah, so in 10,000 years' time, when they find my story, will it gain more respect then than it is now?
No, less.
But why is it?
Because people will more and more realise what a buffoon you are. The more research we do, the more you expose yourself as an empty, egg-headed moron.
That's a friend speaking right there, Richard Gervais.
No,
he loves you like a brother.
I just think, you've mentioned him before, Steve, this Peeps fella.
Yes.
Has he done anything else apart from a diary? Because now I've done a book and a diary.
That means you're better than Pepys, is what you're thinking,
well,
isn't it?
I'm not going to say that until I know, but what else did he do?
Well, Pepys wasn't a writer predominantly. I believe he was, you know, like a bureaucrat or something. But he kept a diary which has since become a historical landmark.
And what did he say in it?
Well, it's again more because it's both
It's
well written and it's also an amazing insight
social
into
document
a social
as well.
document. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a social document.
I
of
mean,
that
yours
period.
is a social document, but it sort of revolves around having egg and chips and a calf and seeing a ladybird, which, you know...
But that's today's living. That's
Well,
what I'm
his,
saying.
his describes the Great Fire of London, which is what it's most. It's best
we haven't
remembered
had
for.
one of them. If we had one, I'd write it down. I'm only writing what's happening. He was just lucky. He was about in London when that happened.
The thing is, if they read your diary, they'd think, well, nothing happened that year. Nothing important in the world happened that year.
Because your diary doesn't just mention. I mean, okay, yes, it does. It fails to mention any disasters in London because we haven't had any. It doesn't mention any world events. It doesn't mention wars in Iraq,
But I don't
terrorism.
need
It doesn't
to
mention
now.
anything.
But that's all being wrote about anyway. If you're saying there's a museum that's keeping everything, there's loads of other books for that. Who's looking at the fella whose skulls fell off?
What?
We see. It's interesting, isn't it? A fella's skull has fell off.
What do you mean? His skull has fell off?
It's something to do with circulation.
But what do you mean his skull fell
Well,
off?
it's in the diary. We
But
might
how
look
can
in
a
the diary.
skull fall off? Because it's surrounded by tissue and it's got a brain. How can just his skull? How can it detach itself from all the stuff surrounding
He
it?
mislaid all his dreams.
But all I'm saying is that's not getting a look in.
No, because it's not significant or probably true.
Carl, you have the same concepts that you worked out and decided that were true at about 10, I think.
I look at life like a
Box
big
of chocolates?
book, like a big book.
Right, okay, yeah.
Right? And you know, sometimes you get halfway through it and you go, even though I've been enjoying it, I've had enough. Give us another book.
No. Your metaphor, analogy, whatever you're trying to create there, falls down with "let's have another book."
Yeah.
No. You can either opt out of life or stick with it till the end. You can't go, be someone else now. You can't do that. I know you think you can, and I think in your world you can, you possibly be injected into an old woman's head when you've had enough and you come out a little baby.
What I mean is, at the moment, my life, I'm going to live to 74, 75, right?
Okay, all right.
So yeah, I'm probably on page, what am I on? A book that's got about 200...
This is painful, Steve. This is really painful. Carry on.
I'm on, I say if my book's got 300 pages in it,
Yeah.
few pictures and that.
It's a picture book. That's the great thing about Carl's life. It's a book for children.
It's a pop-up book, and it just every page he pops in, he goes. All right.
All right.
I'm probably on like page about 170.
Yeah.
He's going to die at 74. He's reading a book with a few pictures in with 300 pages, and he's on 170. Go on then.
So, right, if the book was too thick, right, and there was loads more pages
Let me tell you,
left,
this book is way too thick.
If the book was more thick, yeah.
The book could not be thicker.
if there was loads more pages left, I'd go, I can't be bothered reading on.
Right. Okay.
But
No,
you
let him finish the
But he must
analogy.
have known that when he saw the book. You don't.
Got to finish this analogy,
Right.
otherwise we're going to be here all night.
Listen, he must have known how many pages there were when he got the book out of the library.
Yeah, but the way they write books, they're painting pictures more at the beginning, you're going, this is good. And then it gets a bit boring as it goes on, doesn't it?
Okay, well that works. So you're saying that you were young.
No, it doesn't work.
Well,
Well,
no,
you just
but-
accepted that
no.
that's what all books are like.
No, but there's a little bit of poetry in that because he's actually saying that when he was young, his whole life was ahead of him. He couldn't wait the whole world, the promise that he was given of this world, and now he's a bit jaded and he's more cynical, and he realises that the world hasn't got as much to offer him as he thought it was. Is that what you meant?
Yeah.
Liar. Actually, Carl, you like sayings, don't you? I've got a list here of some of the sayings and phrases that Shakespeare made up, really. In a pickle was his.
Yeah.
And we know what in a pickle
Yeah, we
means.
know what it means. It's a saying I'd never use. Because when you're in a pickle, it's not something that you would say.
No, if you're captured and you're being tortured for information,
Yeah.
you wouldn't, and you get access to a phone, you wouldn't go, MI5, I'm in a pickle. You'd be screaming, going,
You're taking my teeth now. While you've been talking about that, I just was looking on the computer at the Pun of the Day website. There's a couple that you might like. There was a sign on the lawn at a drug rehab centre that said, keep off the grass.
Okay, now if the pun is the lowest form of wit, and let's face it, sarcasm isn't, sarcasm is up there compared to the pun, then the drug pun, I think, is one of the lowest of the low. Oh, people who congratulate themselves on getting drug references. Keep off the grass, will you? Grass, get it? Grass. No, you're smoking the grass, yeah. I think pun should be short for punch him in the mouth.
Idioms are better.
Go on then, what's an idiom? Is that a new word you made up?
No,
As in
I
Karl
know.
Pilkington's a complete idiom.
I found out what it was because I thought, oh, I like them. What are they?
Right.
And it's like little sayings.
Yeah, that's right.
That sum stuff up.
Go on, give us an example of your favourite.
Oh, can I just say one? Talking about sayings, Carl was getting fed up with summer. He was fed up with not getting replies from something. He's having a hard time, And I went, oh, the worm has turned. He went, what? I went, the worm has turned. You've
Stupid saying, isn't it?
No, okay. Tell him why you think that's a stupid saying.
Because how do you know when a worm's turned? Of all the creatures that you could flip over and know it's turned, why pick a worm? It's the worst thing they could have picked to express something turning.
But you're taking turning literally. It means changing, doesn't it? Changing your attitude. A new broom, turning over a new leaf.
Yeah, but
things
then
are going to
use
be
something that
different now, and
changes.
I'm sick of it.
Chameleon.
No, but
Chameleon is a brilliant thing to use for something to change. Chuck that in a sentence. There's nothing that you can link a worm to human life to. You're talking about something it's blind, isn't it? It's blind, it's deaf,
Gay.
it's got no features.
Why is he having such a go at a worm?
Just because it's a weird thing to use. Something that its arse does more than its head.
That could be said of you, Karl, to be fair.